So on this video, we're going to be covering questions 1, 3, 8, and 9 on your assignment. And of course, we have these notes on the wall right here. We have these notes right here on the wall. And on today's section, we're utilizing the words parallel and perpendicular. So anytime you see the word parallel, I'm technically giving you the slope because your line is going to have the same slope as the line that I give you. All right. Um, when you see the word perpendicular, I also am giving you the slope. All you got to do is realize that it's the opposite reciprocal slope. What does that mean? That means you change the sign. So if it's positive, you change it to negative. If it's negative, you change it to positive, and you flip the fraction. Okay. So if I told you, what is the perpendicular slope of 2/3? What's a perpendicular slope of 2/3? That'd be -3/2. So that's what perpendicular is. You change the sign and flip the fraction. So right here, it changes to a negative and you flip the 2/3 to become 3/2. Okay, so let's jump to our first question. It's a pretty basic one. It says, write an equation in slope-intercept form. Okay, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b of the line that passes through this point and is parallel. So whenever you see the word parallel or perpendicular, I'm indirectly giving you the slope, right? And of course, if you read on the wall, parallel lines have the same slope. So our slope is going to be the exact same thing as this equation's slope, okay? So in order for you to see the slope of this equation, it has to either be in point slope form or slope intercept form. And obviously it is in slope intercept form. This is why we're able to see the slope right here. That slope is -4. So that means that our slope is also -4. Okay. So we have a point. It's right here. It's x1, y1. And we have a slope because we said that ours is parallel to this one, which means it's the same slope. So if we have a point and a slope, we're going to go with point slope form. So there's our point slope form equation. I just copied it from the board right here. And again, when you use this form, you want to rewrite it with blank spots. And now you could easily plug in your m value of -4. That was right here because it was parallel. So -4 goes right here where the m's at. And of course, your x1, y1, x1's -2. That goes right here. Y1's 5. That goes right here. So on Friday's quiz, it's not always going to say write in slope intercept form. It may say write in point slope form. So if it does say point slope form, this would be your answer. All you'd have to do is change the minus minus to plus plus, right? So this is your point slope form equation. But in this case, it does say to write it in slope intercept form. And again, slope intercept form is y equals mx plus b. It doesn't have these parentheses. So you want to get rid of the parentheses and then get rid of this value with y. You want to get y by itself. So let's get rid of the parentheses first by distributing. -4 times x is -4x. -4 times +2 is a -8. And you bring down the equal sign, you bring down the y, the -5. You almost have it in slope intercept form. All you have to do is get rid of that -5 by doing the opposite, +5 and +5. So now you have your slope intercept form equation, y equals -4x minus 3. And this is your answer in slope intercept form. This is slope intercept form. Now, why do we call this slope intercept form? Because you could clearly see the slope is -4, and you can see the y-intercept is -3. Okay. So again, if the instruction said write in point slope form instead of slope intercept, you would leave this one. This would be your answer in point slope form. But it does say slope intercept, so you change it to slope intercept, getting y by itself. Now, what if it would have said write it in standard form? Yeah, standard is ax plus by equals c, as you can see right here on the board, ax plus by equals c. So the only thing you would have to do to this slope intercept form to get it in standard form is to get the x to the left side of the equal sign. So it could be the ax plus by equals c. In this case, c is -3. So all you have to do is move this -4 over to the other side by doing the opposite. You'd go +4x plus 4x, and you would now have your standard form equation, 4x plus y equals -3. So this would be your standard form, okay? So on this question, they didn't ask for all three forms. I just went through all of them just so you could be better prepared for Friday's quiz. So right here, they just said slope-intercept. Why did we start with point slope? Because they indirectly gave us a slope and we had a point. So point slope is what we start with. Then you could change to slope-intercept. In this case, this is your final answer for this particular question. But if they did say change to standard, well, you change it to here. Or if they did say leave it in point slope, you would stay right here on the original one. Anyways, let's try another. So the first one was pretty easy because we had the word parallel that gave us the same slope. This one is perpendicular. And again, on the board, it says perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. You have to change the sign and flip the fraction. So perpendicular to what? Perpendicular to this slope, this equation right here that is in slope-intercept form. We want it to be in slope-intercept form so we could actually see the slope of this line. What is the slope of this line? -1/3. Okay, so the slope, let me highlight it in blue, is -1/3, but that's not our slope. Our slope is going to be perpendicular to this slope. Okay, so what is our slope going to be? Yep, 3, just 3, right? So you change the sign, flip the fraction. So if you change the sign, it becomes positive. And if you flip 1/3, it becomes 3/1. So instead of 3/1, I would just leave it 3. So m equals 3. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah? Okay. And what else? They also give us a point. This is your x1 value, your y1 value. That's a point. So if they give you a point and they give you a slope, you might as well go with point slope form, which is right here. It's y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. I'm not going to rewrite it, but I am going to rewrite it with blank spots. Y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. Okay, so the y1 value in this case is -2. And also the x1 value is -2, so that goes over here. And the m value is 3, that goes right here. And of course, you change the minus minus to plus plus. And if it said write it in point slope form, you would leave it y plus 2 equals 3 parentheses x plus 2. This would be your point slope form. Point slope. But obviously, they're not asking for point slope form. They're asking for slope intercept. Okay, and what is slope intercept? Slope intercept is y equals mx plus b, slope intercept form. Okay, so we don't want the parentheses. We're going to get rid of the parentheses by distributing. So you have 3 times x, 3x, 3 times 2, 6, and it is positive 6. So you put a plus sign, bring down the equal sign, bring down the y plus 2. You almost have y by itself. You almost have y equals mx plus b. All we have to do is subtract 2 and subtract 2, giving us y equals 3x plus 4. This is your slope intercept. And that's what they're asking for. That's it. Not bad, right? Okay, what if, like, this is not part of this question, but what if I did ask for standard form? Then all you have to do is what? Minus 3x and minus 3x, that's right. So our new equation would be just rewriting it, -3x, and then the plus positive y, and then the equals 4. Now, if you're doing a multiple choice test, sometimes the test generators make that a value be positive, so they may change it to a positive 3x minus y equaling -4. So this would be your standard form equation. But in this question, they specifically ask for slope-intercept form, and this is your answer, slope-intercept form. Now, why is this not that bad? It's not that bad because whenever you see parallel or perpendicular, all you got to do is look at the slope of the equation that they give you. And if it's parallel, it's the same exact slope. If it's perpendicular, it's the opposite reciprocal slope, right? But they're easy so far because these are in slope-intercept form. You could see the m value right there. Let's take a look at this next one. This one right here is a little more challenging. Actually, no, this one's easy, but I wanna do it the long way and then I'll do a short way, just so you guys could see the difference. But anyway, this one's a little more challenging because they tell you that your line is perpendicular. So they're indirectly giving you the slope. Remember, perpendicular, you have to do the opposite reciprocal slope, change the sign, flip the fraction. It's kind of small and make that bigger. Okay. But the thing is, you can't see the slope yet. So how are you going to change the sign and flip the fraction if you can't even see the slope yet? This is in standard form. You don't want it in standard form. Standard form, there is no m in there. So obviously you want to change this. You want to get y by itself. That way, when you get y by itself, it'll be y equals mx plus b, and you'll be able to see the slope right in front of x. So let's get this y by itself. We're going to get rid of that x first by subtracting x and subtracting x. You're going to end up with 5y equals negative x plus 15. And for your final step here, you're going to divide by 5, divide by 5, divide by 5. And remember, there's an invisible 1 in front of x. So this standard form equation, when you solve for y and when you rewrite it in slope-intercept form, it's going to be y equals negative 1 over 5 with the x on the side plus 3. So all we did here was change this standard form, ax plus by equals c. We changed it to slope-intercept form. Why did we do that? So we could now see the slope. What is the slope? Negative 1 over 5. Now, if this would have said parallel, then our slope would also be the exact same slope, negative 1 over 5. But it says perpendicular, and perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes, which means you change the sign and flip the fraction. So technically, our slope is going to be what? Yeah, 5, right? You change it to a positive and you flip it and it'll become 5. So m equals 5. That's our slope. That means you don't have to look at this equation ever again. You change the way it looks so you can see the slope. Your slope is perpendicular to this one, which is 5. You don't have to look at this anymore. Now, what do we have now? We have a slope and we have a point. The point is x1, y1, 0, 1. So you would go with point slope form. Now, that's not the best option. I'll tell you best option right now, but right now, for the sake of continuing this practice, we're going to do it. Point slope form, I say rewrite it with blank spots. Y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. Okay, so the y1 value is what? 1. What's the x1 value? X1 value. 0. What's the m value? 5. Great. Okay, so that's point slope, but we want to change it obviously to slope intercept form. So we want y by itself. So you could distribute the 5, or you could be like x take away 0 is just x, right? Just like 7 take away 0 is 7, just like 3 take away 0 is 3. So x take away 0 is just x. So you really have 5 times x, which is just 5x. So you really have y minus 1 equals 5x. And then you get rid of the minus 1 by doing the opposite, plus 1 and plus 1. Then you'll have your slope intercept form equation, y equals 5x plus 1, where your slope is 5 and your y-intercept is positive 1. And this is what they're asking for. They're asking for the slope-intercept form. There it is. Here's a slightly easier way of doing it. Once you get your m, once you get y by itself and you get your perpendicular m, which is 5, and then you go back and look at the point, instead of plugging it in to point slope form, if you take 1 second and recognize the location of 0, 1, think about the graph 0, 1. Where's that at? It's on the y-axis itself, right? So you really like think about the graph. 0, 1 is right here. So technically, you have your b value. Your b value is technically 1 just by understanding the location of this point. This is not going to happen often. This is very rare. The point that they give you happens to be, luckily, the b value, the y-intercept. So if you know your m and you know your b, you could write in y equals mx plus b. Y equals mx plus b. Y equals 5x plus 1. Cool? All right. Let's do another. Again, this one right here, it's a little more challenging because when you see the word parallel, you're like, okay, same slope. And you're like, okay, so what is our slope going to be? Well, the same slope as this equation. But the problem is you can't see the slope because it's in standard form, and standard form doesn't have an m involved. So you have ax plus by equals c. There is no m. So you want to get y by itself. You want to get y by itself. That way, when you look at the x term over here, the m will be the value in front of x. So you want to get y by itself, so it'll be in slope-intercept form. So you first have to change this standard form to slope-intercept. So we're going to subtract 9x, subtract 9x. We are going to rewrite it. 3y equals negative 9x plus 8. And then we're going to divide everything by 3. Divide by 3, divide by 3, divide by 3. Here's your slope-intercept form equation. Y equals negative 3x plus 8 divided by 3 doesn't work. You could say it's 2 2/3, or you could leave it 8/3, 2 2/3 maybe. But it doesn't really matter because we're not actually graphing this. All we're doing is changing it from standard form to slope-intercept form. That way we could clearly see the m value of that line. And why do we want to see the m value of that line? Because our m value is going to be parallel to this one, which means it's the same. Parallel lines have the same slope. So this slope is -3. That means that our slope is -3. So now that we have the slope, and now that we have a point, and of course that point, we're going to label it x1, y1. Now you have a point and a slope. We're going to go for point slope form. Point slope form's right here. Y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. We're simply going to rewrite it with blank spots. Y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. And of course, you plug in your y1 value of -4 right there. You plug in your m value of -3 right there. You plug in your x1 value of -1 right there. Change the minus minuses to plus plus. And this is your point slope form equation. Oh, I forgot to write it in slope intercept form. But you know what? Let's just go through all three forms. Okay, through all three forms. So this is your point slope. Might as well label it point slope. Now, if you want to change it to slope intercept, from point slope to slope intercept, you got to get rid of the parentheses by distributing the m, and then get rid of this value by doing the opposite and moving it to the other side. So let's get rid of the parentheses by distributing the -3. So -3 times x is -3x. -3 times +1 is -3. Bring down the equal sign, bring down the y plus 4. Let's get rid of the plus 4 to get y by itself. You're going to subtract 4, subtract 4. You're going to end up with y equals -3x minus 7. So this is our slope intercept form right there. Slope intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. On the assignment I gave you yesterday, this is question number 9, and this is the answer. You type it in slope intercept form. But for today's sake, we're going through all three forms: point slope form, slope intercept form, and finally, to change it to standard form, all you got to do is move that -3x over to the other side. So add 3x, add 3x. What are we going to have? We're going to have the equal sign. We're going to have a positive 3x with a positive y equaling a -7. And that's standard form right there. Standard. So those are the three forms. We have the point slope form, we have the slope intercept, and we have the standard. On the assignment yesterday, we type in this one to get full credit, the slope intercept form one. What do you guys think? Great.